And welcome back to the NFLandU podcast. I'm your host, as always, Hayden Vassar, and it's Monday, January 27th. And I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't have any notes today. I don't. I'm sitting here. I have a cat sitting in my lap, and I'm just staring at a microphone. I don't have a single thing. I have some things planned to talk about, but I have no notes to back them up. Because yesterday, Sunday, I had just sat down to start working on today's show, to start the note and planning process, trying to figure out what we were going to talk about, how I was going to at least get half an hour out of it, that sort of thing. But right as I was sitting down to work on it, that's when the news broke, and if you haven't heard yet, Kobe Bryant and his daughter and 7 other people were killed in a helicopter crash in LA yesterday. And as soon as that story happened, the moment that news broke, I couldn't have cared less about if I did a show today or not. I think the news broke around 3, and I think the rest of the night I just spent curled up into a ball, just wishing it wasn't real. It's weird because I've never really understood the people that got emotional over celebrity deaths before. Like, I've never been attached to a celebrity before. If one died that I knew, I would say, oh, that's sad, but it would never really affect me. But when Kobe died yesterday, I can't really describe how that hit me. And I'm not even a Lakers fan. I didn't get involved watching basketball until like the twilight years of Kobe's career, probably those last 4 or 5, because he retired in 2016? So I can't say I grew up with Kobe like most of the people around the world today have. But that news really did mess me up. And the reason why I have no notes is because around 5 o'clock, after I've been sitting there watching coverage of it for a couple hours, I decided that, listen, there's no point in doing a show today. That's how I felt. I felt no matter what I talk about, it's not going to be worth it. Not after this. So I ditched all my notes. I decided we'll just do a Friday show. All this, that, and therefore. And I go through today. I go to school, go to class. And the class I have today, it's a journalism class, and we're talking about the media coverage of it. And I sit in the back with all the other sports kids. We all tend to congregate in every class. I swear to God, it's the craziest thing. But just being around other people and talking about it, I felt better. I really did. And like I said, I didn't grow up with Kobe, A lot of people did, though. I mean, Kobe came into the NBA when he was 18 years old, fresh out of high school. And for the next 20 years, he was like the mainstay, is a way to put it if you didn't watch the NBA. He was the guy in the NBA. And he became much more than that. He was a guy who preached work ethic like no other. The quote-unquote Mamba mentality, just the endless grind that you're never going to outwork him. It inspired not just other athletes and other competitors. It inspired millions of everyday people to just never give up and to just keep grinding no matter what. So to say that he was just an athlete or just a basketball player, I think is selling him incredibly short. Because Kobe Bryant was way more than just that. And I know that there were other people involved in the crash, like his daughter. There was a Houston baseball coach involved, and his family was involved too. And of course, we send all our thoughts and prayers out to those people as well. It's just sad. There's no other way to sugarcoat it and get around it. It's just sad. And what I wanted, like I said earlier, I didn't plan on doing a show today. I wanted to just, we were going to take Monday off to really just collect ourselves and just do a better show on Friday. But I was just sitting here just watching TV, and I felt bad. Like, at least, like, I'm not going to say anything profound today or anything of the sort. It's just, I wanted to do something. It just felt wrong to just sit here and do nothing. So Uh, Today we're going to try and do a solid show. Maybe not the best show in the world, but it'll be solid. It'll be okay. You know, we're going to try our best. But I don't care if you don't like Kobe. I don't care if you don't like basketball or if you don't even like sports. I just think that if there's anything to take away from what we all went through these past 24 hours, to just see all this outpouring of support from across the entire spectrum. It's not just sports. It's not just basketball. You saw it at the Grammys. You saw it at the Pro Bowl. You're seeing it on Media Night at the Super Bowl right now. It's across all spectrums. An outpouring. Kobe was a global superstar. A megastar that you truly rarely ever see in life. And I think the best way to honor both the memory of Kobe Bryant, his 13-year-old daughter, and the 7 other people involved in that crash is to go through life with that Mamba mentality, to attack life every day and just relentlessly get after it. Just never, ever stop. And there was a guy on ESPN, and like I said, I don't have my notes on me right now, so I can't really give out his name, and I can't remember his name, but there was a guy on ESPN the other day, I think about 2 to 3 hours after the news broke, and he basically said, with the people in your life, whatever, petty stuff you got going on right now, just drop it, man, because life is too short to be caught up on petty stuff. And he's right. Life is way too short. So tell the people in your life that you care for them and you love them. If you do that today, then I think you did a good thing. So, that's what happened Sunday, and we're going to try and do a good show. All right, we're going to try and talk football. All right, so let's talk football. That was a rough transition, wasn't it? That was not graceful. Oh, that wasn't graceful. So, as I'm ad-libbing, staring at my mic and realizing I probably should have at least prepared some notes, let's talk some news. Let's start with the Chargers, okay? Because I think this will be the easier one to talk about. Let's start with the Chargers. So, today, Monday, Jay Glazer of Fox reported that the Chargers are going to move on from quarterback Phillip Rivers after 16 seasons. Now, remember, we talked about this a week ago when we did quarterback carousel, that we felt that Phillip Rivers probably wouldn't come back and be the starter, and now it's basically official. Phillip Rivers is no longer the starting quarterback of the Chargers. After 16 years, remember, we talked about it briefly, he was the 4th overall pick in the 2004 draft, got swapped for Eli Manning, and he had a really pretty good career. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I was looking at him earlier today after the news broke, but he has more passing yards, more wins, more touchdowns, and fewer interceptions than Eli Manning. Another way to phrase that is he had a better playing career than Eli Manning. I know that's hard to say because, Eli's got the Super Bowl rings, but in terms of just playing from what you see from a visual perspective, I think it's fair to say Phillip Rivers played better. Am I right? So here's the deal. The writing was kind of on the wall. Am I right, though? Nobody's stunned by this news, correct? I'm just saying, nobody's stunned that Phillip Rivers isn't coming back because remember his last game with the Chargers at that post-game press conference, he talked about, if I remember correctly, he said, if any team was willing to have me. So Phillip kind of knew this was coming as well. It just hadn't been official yet, if that makes any sense at all. But here's where the Chargers are sitting right now. You're getting rid of Phillip Rivers. You're sending him out to pasture. You still have a pretty talented roster that can kind of win right now. I mean, maybe Melvin Gordon doesn't come back next year, but you still got Keenan Allen. I think Hunter Henry still has another year on the contract. That defense still has a ton of talent on it. That roster is not meant to, just win 4 games next year. They're loaded. So, if you're the Chargers, what is the move? You know what I'm saying? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to maybe just go get a rookie quarterback in the draft and just, be not good for a year and then come back next year? Or are you going to go get a guy in free agency and try to compete right now? Because I heard a report a couple weeks ago about the Chargers that said that they are really, really impressed with backup Tyrod Taylor. And I know I can already hear you groaning at that name. That, hey, maybe Tyrod Taylor could be the starter. And as soon as I heard that, I said, no. Oh, hell no. I love Tyrod when he was with the Buffalo Bills. But I don't think that the win now move would be to put in Tyrod Taylor as your starting quarterback. I love Tyrod. I love me some Tyrod. But that is, to quote the kids these days, that is not the move. Most definitely not the move. So the Chargers are sitting at an interesting situation. Like I said, their roster's loaded. But now it feels like it's almost a guaranteed lock that they're taking a quarterback in the first round of the draft. And like I said, I think the odds-on favorite for that is Justin Herbert. They're picking, sixth? If I remember correctly. I was literally staring at a mock draft earlier today, and I can't tell you where the Chargers are picking. I think they're picking sixth. So, Justin Herbert feels like he could be the odds-on favorite to be drafted by the Chargers. There's also Jordan Love. I'm going to keep throwing this name out because he feels like the name that's going to be hyped up as we keep going forward. The quarterback out of Utah State. I think either one of those guys could be excellent targets for the Chargers. Who knows? Maybe the Dolphins fall out of love with Tua. Anything is possible. I'm just saying, I think the Chargers are going to go take a quarterback in the first round of the draft this year. I feel like it's almost a surefire guaranteed. Like, it's so surefire to this point, I'm willing to bet money on it. Like, that's how much I believe in it at this point. Oh, man. Oh, Chargers. It'll be interesting to see what they do, though. It really will be. But, so, for Phillip Rivers, though, because there's a flip side of this coin. It's not just what the Chargers have going on, it's also what Phillip Rivers has going on. Because he says he still wants to play. Now, he didn't say that today, Monday, but he said that at the post-game press conference. He said, if any team is willing to have me, I'd love to come play for you. So, for Phillip Rivers, what's next? He's got to contemplate, do you really want to go to a whole nother team, start all over again from scratch, and maybe play, another year or two? Is that what you want? Or do you just want to hang it up? I mean, you've had 16 years. That's more than most guys ever get close to having. And you've had a heck of a career. You've had a really, really solid career. I know you haven't had your postseason success like your fellow draft brothers in Eli and Roethlisberger have, but you've had a very, very good career, Phillip Rivers. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. It'll be one of the more interesting names to watch on the free agent chart this offseason, because that's going to be one of the bigger names, because Phillip could maybe potentially go to a team that has talent that's looking to win right now and maybe help them. Who knows? So it'll be interesting to watch. But once again, the news out of San Diego. Now, oh God, I can't believe I just did that. That's what I get for not having notes. The news out of Los Angeles, not San Diego. The news out of Los Angeles that Phillip Rivers and the Chargers will be parting ways after 16 long seasons. Moving on to another piece of quarterback news. Now, for this one, I will require you to wear your tinfoil hats, please. Are you putting them on? I can hear the crinkling. Thank you very much. Now, thank you for indulging me. Let's get to it. The New Orleans Saints, quarterback issues. What in the blue hell is going on? All right, so Sunday. Was it Sunday? It was either Saturday or Sunday. I really can't remember right now. There was a... No. Let's go further back. Friday. That's when it really started. Friday, Drew Brees was at the Pro Bowl. They were talking to some players with the media and all this, that, and thereforth. And, every time the media gets a hold of Drew Brees in the offseason, they always ask him about retirement. They ask every single old quarterback over the age of 30, when are you retiring? And he's been answering these questions for 6 years at this point. All right, he's used to it. But the comments that he made on Friday were a little odd. mostly because we've never heard him talk like that before. If you didn't hear him, I don't have him in front of me, so I'm going to paraphrase. Drew Brees said that, he doesn't necessarily know when he's going to retire. It's different every single year, and that, he knows his body can't keep up with doing this every single little year, He's an old man now in football years. He's over 40. That's like 90 years old in football years. He needs a wheelchair. So that was Friday, and it threw me off because, I've never heard Drew talk like that. He doesn't normally talk about his retirement in those kind of terms where it felt like he could see the light at the end of the tunnel. He knew the end was coming. That's what I got from those comments. I've never heard him talk like that, and I saw the notification on my phone. I'm like, that's weird. Drew? Really? So then Sunday rolls around, okay? Sunday morning, it's reported that Drew Brees is actually heavily considering retirement. That as of right now, he doesn't know if he's going to play next season. And that he should have a firm decision in about a month or so. So we're at the point to where Drew Brees is debating whether he's going to hang it up right now. Right now. And you're thinking, wow, that's saying a lot. But it didn't end there. So we went from Drew's talking weird about retirement on Friday to Sunday to where maybe Drew is getting very close to the end. Then the Pro Bowl happened. And if you didn't watch the Pro Bowl, I don't blame you. I really don't. At this point, I'm done talking about the Pro Bowl. Anyway, Drew Brees was supposed to not start the game for the NFC. Russell Wilson was supposed to start for the NFC side. But Russell Wilson got the team together and said, Drew's going to start the game for the NFC. And at first when I heard it, I'm like, that's weird. Why would Russell do that? And then I took a step back and I looked at his comments from Friday and I looked at the news coming out of Sunday and I realized, oh, something's going on here. Because when you look at it together and you start connecting dots, you're seeing a trend of, holy cow, Drew Brees might retire this offseason. If you take it, I'm telling you to take it all into account. All in. Every single bit. The weird comments on Friday, the news that he is considering retirement on Sunday, then Russell Wilson cedes the starting job to Drew Brees. It's looking awful funky, isn't it? But it didn't stop there, people. Oh, wait, there's more. Monday, today happens. And the report, Jay Glazer was just on top of things today. First the Phillip Rivers thing, and then this report about the Saints. That the Saints already have a backup plan ready. Apparently, according to Jay Glazer, if Drew Brees is to retire, they have already picked Taysom Hill, the little gadget player who's never thrown more than one pass in a game before in his life. In the pros, not in college, in the pros. They believe he can be a franchise quarterback. And if Drew Brees is to retire, they got him ready to go. And I saw that. I'm like, oh, good God. Are you kidding me? The Saints are reading the tea leaves, and they've already prepared a backup plan. Now, Jay Glazer went on to say in his report that if, Drew Brees decides to, come back for one more year, then the Saints would welcome him back with open arms, as they should. He proved that he could still play at a very high level coming down the stretch of the regular season. Remember, he had the Saints offense clicking. He had those boys rolling. But we're at the point to where the Saints have already figured out who's going to be the successor and are planning to roll this kid out as the successor. Take this all into account over a period of 4 days. I have come to the conclusion that the likelihood of Drew Brees retiring this offseason is very high. We are at DEFCON 1 or 5, whichever one's bad. That's where we're at. It's wow. I couldn't believe it. Because you just pick one of those things. One of the 4 things I just mentioned and look at it in a vacuum, it's not that big of a deal. In fact, if you spread it out over 9 months, these 4 things over 9 months, still not a big deal. You put these 4 things happening over what? Look, 1, 2, 3. I have to count because I'm stupid. 4 days. This past weekend. Happening over 4 days. And it's suddenly becoming alarming. I mean, think about that for a second. The possibility of having Drew Brees, Eli Manning, and Phillip Rivers all retire this offseason. Good Lord, would the NFL look different, wouldn't it? Oh my gosh. So that's where we're at. They think Taysom Hill can be a franchise quarterback, and I truly don't understand where this Taysom Hill love's come from. I don't. I watched him play in college. I watched him kick the tar out of my Longhorns multiple times. It was not pretty. It wasn't. But he goes to the pros, and he goes to New Orleans, and they use him as a gadget player. And he's worked flawlessly as that. I just don't see him as a guy who's going to come out and potentially throw 20 to 25 times a game. He's never had a game where he's thrown more than one career pass in the NFL, and he's been here for 4 seasons, people. But you're telling me this kid's going to come out and be your franchise quarterback? Oh, and don't forget, they have Teddy Bridgewater. The disrespect towards Teddy Bridgewater is unreal, and I feel offended. I truly do. Teddy Bridgewater started 6 games for the Saints this past season and won every single one. Granted, sometimes it wasn't pretty, but you know what? He got the job done, didn't he? He got the job done. And you're just going to say, thanks for your work, Teddy. We won't sign your new contract. Have fun somewhere else. We got this Mormon kid. He went to BYU. I'm allowed to say that. This Mormon kid, he's going to be our new quarterback. Look at him. 29 and has never thrown 2 passes in a game. The disrespect to Teddy Bridgewater is unreal. And I feel offended. I feel offended. So, keep an eye on the Saints going forward. Drew Brees said he'd have a decision ready in about a month or so. So, about a month from now, you're looking at late February, early March. So, at that point in time, we'll know whether Drew Brees wants to stay and play at least one more year. I think Drew Brees is at the point to where if the Saints had won the Super Bowl this year, I think he would retire. But I think he's hanging on just to maybe get one more shot at it. You know, finally get one more shot at a Super Bowl. I really do believe if they had won this year, he would probably retire. I think we're that close to the end. In fact, we're so close that if he doesn't retire this offseason, I think that Drew Brees is probably going to retire next offseason. That if he doesn't retire this offseason, that this coming season will be his last season. And that maybe we'll treat it like a retirement tour kind of thing, if that makes any sense. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on the Saints, keep an eye on the Chargers, and we're getting in the draft time when we're evaluating quarterbacks. Oh, it's just so much fun. The quarterback carousel never stops swinging, doesn't it? You know, I'm just trying to buy time because I got no notes. So, that's all I got for news. Chargers and Saints have quarterback woes. And now we're gonna... I don't have another segment planned. I'm just gonna airball this one. Super Bowl opening night is happening tonight as I flip through the TV and I'm starting to panic. So I think it's how they're doing it is the Chiefs go first for the media, and then it's, if I'm to understand this correctly, it's the 49ers tomorrow night. So it'll be interesting to see what they all have to say. You know, media night, it's an odd thing because, you know, every sports station and network has, you know, wall-to-wall coverage throughout the entire week of every single tiny little thing for each team. You know, opening night can be fun. It can be, you know, interesting to hear some funny questions. It's just a lot to ask, you know, for 5 straight days to try and make content. Because I'm sitting here trying to struggle to make content when I was planning. I was like, what are we going to talk about on Monday? And I'm like, I don't know. Just ad-lib. So, here we are, Super Bowl. I said on Friday we would talk about the Super Bowl a little bit. And it looks to be a fun one, in my opinion. It really does. Chiefs 49ers. First postseason meeting between these two. These two played each other actually last season, 2018, in week 2 or 3. In those early days where people weren't sure if Patrick Mahomes really had it. And then he showed him he really had it. But it's a lot of interesting narratives between the two. Not just because of coaching and players. In terms of like historical context, this Super Bowl is actually kind of interesting. You know, the Chiefs haven't been here since Super Bowl 4. And, you know, they're tied synonymously. I'm not even sure if I'm using that word correctly. With the Super Bowl with Lamar Hunt and, you know, the Hunt family, one of the original families of the NFL. And you got the 49ers, you know, who I know we don't use this word in, you know, the NFL. It's mainly a college football term, but, you know, the 49ers are a blue blood of the NFL. One of the premier franchises. You know, they're not an original franchise, but they're one of the more prominent ones. I mean, 5 Super Bowls, you know, 7 Super Bowl appearances total. You know, they're one of the better teams in terms of championships. There was a point in time when the 49ers, you know, empire reigned supreme in the 80s. You know, everything they did, they won. They won 4 in the 80s. They got the 1 in the 90s thanks to Steve Young. They had the Super Bowl appearance last decade thanks to Colin Kaepernick. Came up a little short. And now they're back this decade. Every decade they pop up. They really do. Every single decade they do. But, you know, in terms of, like I said, historical context, these two teams are very interesting because, you know, of Joe Montana, for example. If you don't know, Joe Montana won 4 Super Bowls with the 49ers in the 90s, and towards the end of his career, the 49ers felt that he lost a step, and they had a very capable backup in Steve Young, so they let Joe Montana walk. And where does Joe Montana go? The Kansas City Chiefs. They played a couple times with each other over the next couple of years when Joe Montana was starting for the 49ers. I mean, not the 49ers, the Chiefs. And the Chiefs went to a couple playoff games, but they were never able to replicate the success that Joe Montana had in San Francisco at that time. So you could look at the Super Bowl through that lens, through the Joe Montana lens. It's the Joe Montana Bowl, people. But it's just a very interesting game from just a variety of different perspectives. Very, very just interesting and dynamite perspectives, from coaching to players to scheme-wise. It's just, you could literally spend hours talking about it. It's just, I've never been this, I won't say never. I haven't been this excited for a Super Bowl in years. I can't remember the last time I was like this genuinely excited for a Super Bowl. And it looks to be a very, very, very fun one. So that's this Sunday, Super Bowl. And this Friday, we're going to do a super mecha awesome, amazing Super Bowl Extravaganza show where I promise I will have notes and I will not ad-lib, at least not the whole thing, where we will do, you know, our prediction, which we will unveil Friday. I still haven't picked a winner yet, surprisingly. I'm starting to lean one way, but I will not give a hint. I'm starting to lean one way. We will talk about prop bets, because that's always one of my favorite segments every Super Bowl year, is the hilarious prop bets. And we'll do some other fun stuff. So that's the show for Friday. And all this and that. I keep saying that a lot because I don't know what to say. I did just remember that I said I was going to debut a new segment today. And I remember most of what I was going to say, so I would like to actually do that right now, just to fill time. I'm really off the rails here, and I apologize for nothing. This segment, and I know some people aren't going to like it, but that's okay. Because, you know, you don't have to like everything. You know those shows, those DIY shows, you know, do it yourself? This segment I'm going to call Do It With Me. So DIWM. Do It With Me. And this is where I show you and a specific team how to accomplish a specific goal. And, you know, we're sitting here on opening night of the Super Bowl. We've transitioned to a new segment. So if you need a timestamp, this is it.
I'm really off the rails right now. We're sitting here on opening night of the Super Bowl, and you know what's missing? You know what's really missing that would make this familiar? The New England Patriots. I know, super exciting, am I right? The New England Patriots, but they're not here. You know why? Because despite their record and despite winning their division, they weren't that good of a team this year, were they? They had a really good defense and really great special teams. That doesn't get talked about enough. But their offense was terrible. It was downright atrocious and ugly to look at. It made babies cry. It was so ugly. So, in the first installment of Do It With Me, DIWM, trademark, I would like to present to you a blueprint on how the New England Patriots can rebuild their offense this offseason and bounce back and be in the Super Bowl next year. Now, I would like to preface and say they don't have to follow this exact blueprint. They can follow something similar and I think have very much good success. But I think I have presented a way that they can rebuild their offense and do it for cheap. Because here's the thing about Bill Belichick. If you haven't noticed, they don't spend a buttload of money. They don't go out and get the big fancy free agents and spend like $100 million in cap space. That's not who they are. So we're going to abide by those rules, okay? So let's take a look at the Patriots offense right now and see what we have and build, okay? You got Tom Brady. We're assuming he'll be back. And you got Julian Edelman, who we're going to assume is going to be healthy this coming season. He was plagued by injuries this year, and he led the team in drops. You need to be better. So we're going to assume Brady and Edelman are back, and they're both healthy. All right? That's what we're starting with. Everything else needs an upgrade. Okay? Let's start with that. So free agency is going to start before the draft. And here's the thing that I think really hampered the Patriots this year. They didn't have Gronk. Now, it's easy to say that an offense drops off in production when you don't have Gronk. But I think Gronkowski, the tight end, really covered up a lot of problems for the Patriots offense over the years. That in time of need, when your wide receivers aren't getting the job done, Gronkowski can go over the middle on a big third down and get you a first down. Okay? Am I right? And when they didn't have that this year, that offense shriveled up. That they didn't have a constant security blanket guy that could go out and get the job done. Now, you look out over the free agency market and you look out over the draft, there's not a guy anywhere close to that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm just going to be honest. But I do think I can get you a tight end, New England, that could maybe get the job done. That when he is shown that when he can step up and play at a high level, it's pretty dang good. And I think I can get you him for really, really cheap. Now, I'm going to say this name, and there's going to be one of two reactions. You're either going to groan and say, oh, why him? Or you're going to say, who's that? I'm going to say, because he's going to be a free agent, that the New England Patriots should go get tight end Eric Ebron in free agency. Now, if you're the second reaction and you're saying, who's that? Eric Ebron was taken in the first round a couple of years ago by the Detroit Lions. And his career never took off in Detroit. He was either constantly hurt or never getting production. And the coaching staff eventually gave up on him. And if you watched it, you could understand why. So, what does Eric Ebron do? He goes to free agency and he signs a contract with who? The Indianapolis Colts. Eric Ebron's first year in Indianapolis was that year Andrew Luck had come back from the shoulder injury. It was Andrew Luck's first year back. And what happens? Eric Ebron catches 14 touchdowns. Oh yeah, that got your attention real quick, didn't it? He got 14 touchdowns with Andrew Luck in 2018, my mistake, 2018. Then the next year, it's been talked about so much, Andrew Luck retired, Ebron got hurt, there was a massive drop-off in production, and everything, fell apart. Then apparently there was a fallout between Ebron and the coaching staff due to an injury, and it sounds like Ebron's going to be hitting the market. So, I'm saying you go get Eric Ebron, and because of his history with injuries, I know it's risky, but because of his history of injuries and, lack of production over the years, I think he can be there for very, very cheap. And I think that if you bring him in and install him into the system, I think he can play at a high level. I think you can really get production out of him if you surround him with some talent. I really do. I liked Eric Ebron when he was in Indianapolis. So there's your upgraded tight end. You bring in Eric Ebron and you bring him in for cheap. Now, we got the tight end fixed. Now let's turn to the real problem, the wide receivers. You got Edelman. He's your one. All right. He's going to be your number one wide receiver. What do you do after that? Because the rest of the guys on that roster are not good. I really don't like saying that about guys, but there's no way getting around it. Those guys are not good. N'Keal Harry, I know he's a rookie. He don't got it. Philip Dorsett, I think we can ship him off. So the Patriots are picking in the early 20s. I think it's around 22nd they're picking in the draft, in the first round. You use that pick on a wide receiver. They're not used to picking that early because they're usually picking towards the very end, like that 27, 28 range in the first round. But they're picking 6 spots earlier than normal. That's a big difference. Now, we talked about it on Friday when we talked about the Senior Bowl, that this is the year if you need a wide receiver. This is your year. And I feel like they're going to be going early and often. So they're not going to get, like a CeeDee Lamb, who I think is the best wide receiver in the draft. Like, for instance, I see a mock draft scrolling across the bottom of my screen right now where they have like 6 wide receivers going before the Patriots even pick. It's kind of a crapshoot, but I think there's tons of talent and depth at the wide receiver position in the draft this year. It does not matter who they take. So it's kind of like a catch-22 kind of way of looking at it. With their first round pick in the first round of this year's draft, New England needs to take a wide receiver. All right, so there you go. You got your tight end. We got you a wide receiver. They could really use another one. And I don't think that's in Bill Belichick's DNA to go wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. So I think they're going to have to go to free agency. Now, you look around the NFL, wide receivers like money. They like money. So a name that just immediately came to my mind is Amari Cooper, who is slated to be a free agent and who might be on the outs in Dallas because they don't know how to manage money and they need to make a decision whether they keep Byron Jones, Dak Prescott, or Amari Cooper. And it feels like they can only keep 2 of those names. So who knows what Dallas is going to do. Amari Cooper might be there on the market. I know he's going to want a lot of money, but it could be a name worth targeting. So I think that they need to go out and get not a big time free agent, but another wide receiver. And I'm not saying specific names because Tom Brady wants a specific type of wide receiver. He wants the guys that are going to run his routes. You need to be on the exact same kind of mental page with Tom Brady, or else this is not going to work. As we saw this year with his wide receivers, those guys were off the book. They weren't even on the same page. Those dudes were off the freaking book. So, that's what I'm saying. Eric Ebron at tight end, first round draft pick on a wide receiver. You go get one in free agency. We've basically retooled the receiving core, haven't we? That's good enough for people that they don't have to go out and get like a big time free agent wide receiver like an Amari Cooper, but maybe go and get a new face. Because, like I said, N'Keal Harry and Philip Dorsett, those guys are not passing the smell test, to put it frankly. And one last note, because they really need help at the running back position. Their running back production was among one of the worst in the league this year. It really was. I don't know if the stats back it up, but from watching it, it was one of the worst. So I don't think the running back draft class is, loaded enough to maybe take one in the 4th or 5th round and hope for production, because New England has always done, the running back by committee thing. They've usually always had, some big, heavy running back like a LeGarrette Blount for goal line situations, and then utilized, endless rotation of running backs that can come out of the backfield and catch, or just little shifty guys that they start every other week. But they also could use a running back. So maybe that could be a target in the draft. So, according to my blueprint, they get Eric Ebron, they draft a wide receiver in the first round, they get a wide receiver in free agency, and maybe draft a running back. And I think that will be good enough to get the New England Patriots back in the Super Bowl. because they don't have to, overcome a Goliath or anything. They are the Goliath, for crying out loud. They are the mountain that needs to be beaten. You already got the great defense, so you don't have to worry about drafting to keep that up. It sounds like you're going to be retaining most of your talent on defense. That special teams should be just as deadly as it was last season. So you got the pieces in place on, on defense and special teams. Just retool the heck out of your offense this offseason, and you should be great to go, my friends. So, to recap for this segment of Do It With Me, DIWM, you go get Eric Ebron. I know he's got injury concerns, but he's a big body tight end, and they could really, really use that. You draft a wide receiver in the first round, you go get one in free agency, and you somehow find another running back. And then I think you'll be aces, you'll be good to go, and we'll be living under the New England Patriot Empire for one more god-awful season. So that's it for this segment of Do It With Me. I'm so proud. I did this 40 minutes with no notes. I'm so proud of myself. That's all I've got for today's show. Like I said, on Friday, we're going to do a super-duper Super Bowl extravaganza. I should probably call it that. I should probably write that down. Super-duper Super Bowl extravaganza. On Friday, where we'll do prop bets, we'll try to have some fun, and then, yeah, that's all we got planned for Friday. So thanks for stopping by. I know this was very much scatterbrained and completely off the wall, but I felt like I just had to come and talk and just try to have some fun. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll talk to you everybody Friday. Bye.